playing around with this for years. And we've got some traction, and we've got some land, and we got a great organization we're putting together, but we need help. 7 years ago, I went through an unwanted divorce, and I was living in Memphis, Tennessee, and I needed to get out of Dodge. So I looked for a job that was as close to Memphis as I could, and they ended up coming up with an aquatics center. So I kind of fell into what became a career for a while. And the aquatics center was in a community which had, with everybody, maybe 60,000 people. Beautiful facility, and it had 2 bodies of water and a splash pad. And I came in a couple months before it opened, you know, went through the construction phase. They handed me the keys and said that we're going to open in 2 months. So I had to buy all the equipment, laying lines, you know, starting blocks, etc. And then to put programming procedures in and computers and all that stuff. And then hired 32 staff, 2 full-time. Meant to put programming in. And the first thing I did was aquarobics. We had a great therapy spa and our therapy pool, and we could go senior citizens, and the senior citizen was a huge group. And it got to be where I didn't have enough teachers or enough time to accommodate them. And when I found out this was more of a social thing for them. And so that really expanded there. Expanded for other ages. We did a boot camp and more advanced ones. And I thought, okay, we got that going. We got swim team, get started, Special Olympics. Got lap swimming. I'm doing swim lessons too for adults, and we're doing swim lessons. I thought, okay, what else can we do? All right, let's Monday, Wednesday, let's take half of the lanes out and let's have the kayakers come in. So I had upwards of 12 kayakers coming out every Tuesday and Thursday. And they're out there practicing and people doing rolls. And I thought, okay, that's good. What else can we do? Oh, I know, let's go Monday, Wednesdays, and let's bring the scuba divers in. So we had about 8 scuba divers, and they would, you know, swim once they get going. They swim deep in, which is 12 feet, and they'd swim underneath the kids, and the bubbles blow up, and they had a blast doing that. And I thought, okay, that's good. What else can we do? All right, let's do movie nights on Friday nights, once a month. So the kids would come, and they'd put things, you know, floaties out on the water, and they'd get in there, and the parents would be able to sit and just enjoy themselves, and they'd watch Finding Nemo or whatever. And we kept thinking, okay, well, how can we get the teenagers in here? Again, we're trying to build a community, trying to build people get involved. I thought, okay, what would be a good one? Let's try Jaws. So we went and did Jaws. Unfortunately, I let everybody know. And the fun part wasn't watching the movie, it was watching the teenagers and the fear on their faces and excitement. And they didn't even want to get out of the water. So, and I go, okay, what else can we do? How about an annual events for the community? I thought, okay, let's do, and I ended up doing 3 different ones. Let's do Easter, let's do Halloween, and let's do a kids triathlon. So we went on and did a Easter egg, and I had about 3,000 Easter eggs, put them in the water. About 800 kids came. It's become an event now where they now have to do food trucks out front. They have vendors, and they do, you know, Easter egg hunting out front, and they do the same thing with pumpkins. They had 200 pumpkins out there. Again, it brought the community together for an annual event. Then we did a kids triathlon, little kids 12 and under, and we had an organization that puts on triathlons. They came in and set it up, and it looked like the Ironman. And these kids would go out and do that again. All these parents come together watching their little kids doing a triathlon. The cutest were the little 4 or 5-year-olds that had training wheels, and they had streamers off their bikes. And parents would get wild helmets like a ladybug or a dragon. And boy, those parents had a blast, and it brought the community together. A couple years later, we grew to 200 people, and people from the other towns came in. And that gives you an idea of some of the stuff we can do. I thought, okay, what else can we do? Fridays, Saturdays, we need to get more people in. So, okay, let's do obstacle course. So I got a company out in New Zealand that had beautiful obstacle course. They were modules, big, bright colored, they've been red, yellow, blue, and they were modules so I can move them around. We went all the way across the pool. Had one where there was a swinging rope going across just like Indiana Jones, and then a slide at the end. What that did is it brought people coming to the Aquatics Center during the weekdays, having a great time. Adults did just as much as the kids. And parents would just stick around because we're taking care of their kids, free babysitting. And so that was another one. Another one I did was really exciting was, I thought, okay, let's do aqua cycles. So I got 20 aqua cycles, put in the water, and do spin classes. And then leave them in the water so people could do work on them throughout the week. And I thought, okay, let's try another one. I know, let's do yoga boards. So we do yoga. We tie them to the lane lines, and people would do yoga. Got 20 of those, and it was a very popular class. And I wanted to put a climbing wall in. But this is an example of things we could do in the community that can impact the community, brings people together, gives them exercise. As we know, our population is heavy, and we got a lot of people that are wheelchair bound and can't move around. And we found out, or I found out, that what the Aquatics Center did is I had time and time again, people would come in wheelchairs, and we could wheel them into the water where they have natural buoyancy and they could start exercising. And there was one lady in particular, I'll finish with this. There was one lady in particular, Shelley. She came in very large in a big wheelchair, very uncomfortable looking. She wheeled her into the water. I put a lifeguard in with her to help her. Got her up to here, she could float, and she started slowly trying to move her legs. She did that for 9 months. Clearly she was losing weight. She ended up losing over 100 pounds. 9 months later, she drove us out to the pool. And the looking on her face, walking in after driving there, 100 pounds lighter, was radiant. And the joy she had and the pride. And she later told me, says, this place saved my life. And I've heard that over and over and over again. Reaching out to the people that need an aquatic center. Uniquely to do it. The only place from 5 years old to 90 years old, you could do that. But what we need now is we need help. We need to put this together. I left 28 years ago and they were talking about aquatic center back then. All right, are we going to have our grandchildren 28 years from now going, oh yeah, my grandma, they talked about aquatic center. Now's the time. You know, if it's going to get done, we've got to do it. And we've got to get it together and help us do it. I came back and I'm committed to do this, and that's why I came here. I believe in my community. I want to give something back to the community. I want to carry on what I love and I'm passionate about, and what I've seen in other communities, the impact it can have, and how it draws people together. And I'll close with this. John Bidwell told his wife Annie to donate his most cherished piece of property. He had, 22,000 acres, and this was his most cherished. Without a doubt, most beautiful there was. He experienced Chico, and he wanted to keep it the same that he did over his years. So he donated this piece of property. He left a legacy, and we are enjoying this legacy to this day because he reached out. We now have an opportunity. Just imagine 5 years from now, 10 years from now, a place that gets built. Your grandkids, your great-grandkids are going out to that facility, and their mothers, their father turns and goes, look kids, your grandfather helped build this. Leave a legacy, make a difference in the community, give back. It's not someone else do it, it's us. We're the ones that need to do it. So I'm looking for people that believe in what we're doing, that have the passion for it, and push this through. It's not going to be easy, boy. Imagine the legacy you can leave and the impact on Chico. We've got to do it. So if you're interested, sign on. All right, thank you. See you at All right, let's see how I do it. Oh, man, 11 minutes. I did pretty good.
Cassie Faith.
Forgive me, I'm a little out of breath. I just came from class. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Cassie Faith, and I coach Chico High Swimming along with the fabulous Danae Earhart back there. I also am an advisor to the board for EBHB, and my day job is teaching in the Recreation, Hospitality, and Parks Management Department at Chico State. And it's really the day job that brings me here today. In our department, we teach our students to become jobs professionals such as forest rangers, recreation and program and facilities, city recreation, parks managers. We have a couple here in presence tonight. And community event programmers, resort and lodging professionals, music organizers, all the fun things in life. All the things that build community, which is one of the things that we love about swimming. So we all know, those of us that are here, that the reason that we love swimming is because of the community that it's built. And we built around this love of our sport that drives us to continue to participate in it. This love of community is what keeps us participating in it. And it's a sport that keeps us physically, spiritually, mentally, and socially healthy. It's also a sport that when a facility is effectively designed and managed, it helps to enhance community identity and integration. It allows for learning and sharing of community values. It can deter antisocial behaviors. It leads to economic benefits that impact hospitality, food and beverage, tourism, retail industries, as well as many others. It also, Everybody Healthy Body was created. So this is our vision at EBHB. It is that everybody would have a healthy body. And we want everyone, as part of that experience, to have a positive experience with aquatics as well, as part of that picture. We want everyone in this greater Chico community to experience a positive experience with water, whether it's the parent in the parent taught class. Sorry, my notes are all messed up. Here it is. Parent taught class, or the child in the learn to swim class, or the adult that does aqua aerobics, or the teen that goes to do water safety or lifeguard swimming lesson or lifeguard classes, whether it's the swim team or community activities like inner tube water polo or community dive-in movie nights. We'd love to see it expand to water polo, synchronized swimming, diving, underwater hockey, you name it, anything that has something to do with aquatics, we'd love to see that expand. Once it gets to that point, it also spills then over into other aquatics activities that are not related to the facility that we build, which are things like sailing and paddleboarding and kayaking, a comfort level with water and aquatics that starts with a pool. It has to start with a pool. So what we'd like to do ultimately is create a healthy community that begins with and has a piece of the aquatics community as part of the greater picture, and ultimately create a healthy, water, safe community. In order to do that, we need to have a partnership across all of our programs. So that means that we have to put aside our personal program, and we hope that tonight you will see that the benefit of this aquatics facility crosses all of our needs and desires when it comes to aquatics programming. And we would love for you, even if you think in the very smallest way, and you're not really sure how, but you know that there's a piece of this puzzle that you want to be part of in whatever way, and it's super undefined, we want your name and contact information. Because we're going to find a way to fit you into the puzzle, even if it's a tiny small piece, it all matters. And so we thank you very much for coming here tonight. It really does make a difference, and that we can do this. We've come a long way, and we're ready, and we just need you to join us. Thank you for coming.
So, it's not over. So let's talk about EBHB can help make this happen. So Linda Zorn, our current board president, is going to get up and talk about vision, history, and membership of EBHB, kind of who we are as a nonprofit community-based organization, real quickly.
Real quickly, Cassie said it really well. We're about recreation. We're about promoting fitness, recreation, health, and wellness. On the screen here is kind of our mission and vision. We're really a community movement for health, wellness, education, building a healthy community through physical activity. We started back in 2011. Brad, Kathy Carpenter, Mike Hernandez is here. Raise your hand, Mike. And Chuck Nadeau were kind of the group that kind of said, hey, we got to do this. Our kids go off to other places and do tournaments. Why not here, right? Why not Chico? Why not have a sports complex where we can have all those things right here? It's also an economic driver for the community. So that was the starting point for it. So that's been 11 years ago, and they're still at it. They're still committed to the cause. Over time, we became a 501c3, got more organized, put together a pretty strong board of board members and advisors, many of which are here. If you're an advisor or board member, raise your hand today. So they're here. We did a feasibility study that's found that, yeah, we were right. We do need more recreation facilities in Chico, from ball fields to field house to aquatics to you name it. We're under-resourced in that area in Butte County and the kind of whole North State. So, and then of course, the campfire hit and things changed. We focused a little bit more on working within our community. We did some healthy community work and initiatives. Moving forward, Kathy's going to talk about the voucher program in a little bit. And Bill's going to talk about the land that we've had our eye on, which he'll talk about that being purchased as well. We're working with lots of different health and wellness organizations, becoming a member of the Blue Zones Initiative and the Healthy Here project that's happening. So we're really about doing what we can, to support recreation. Go back one more, if you would. So we kind of, in our board, have two focused areas. One is facilities, one is programming. And again, Kathy will talk about the voucher program, which has been our major programming effort. You want to go to the next slide. Some of our key partners, in 2019, we became an Aspen Institute Project Play Champion. We've received funding from North Valley Community Foundation, specifically the Aaron Rodgers NorCal Fire Recovery Fund as well. And so again, all leading to that kind of initiative of what can we do to promote recreation and physical activity. Oh, I probably should have said that in my day job, I work at Butte College for Economic and Workforce Development, kind of to know what that is. And that's keeping it pretty short and sweet. So that's kind of what EBHB is. We'd love to have all of you a part of what we're doing. And the biggest thing that we're going to talk about too is, and most of you have done that already, sign up for our for contact information, but also letters of support as we move forward with our vision of the land. Who's next, Brad?
Kathy's going to come up and talk about programming, supporting programming. I'm going to go back to this slide real quick. I know that you can't read the names on there, but there's a whole slew of people on the board and advisory at EBHB who are community leaders, and they're kind of experts in their field, what they do. And we have people like Cassie, we have people who are experts in economic development. We have all kinds of people who are dedicating a lot of time and energy to this throughout our community. And so thanks to those folks that are on that list who are here this evening. Kathy is going to talk about how EBHB supports programs and programming.
Hi, my name is Kathy Carpenter. I'm a co-founder, past president of Everybody Healthy Body, and I'm one of those people that have been at it for 11 years. I have really severe allergies, so I do not have COVID tonight. I just want everybody to know that. So my voice goes in and out, I apologize. So we have been working on this particular piece of land for 11 years. Just about the time that we raised the money to buy it, the fire happened. So as Linda said, we stepped back as an organization and said, what can we do for our community? Because building a facility is not going to help our community right now. So we teamed up with Aaron Rodgers Recovery Fund, the North Valley Community Foundation, and we wrote a grant to support recreation and play. We started with a $50,000 grant, and it was specific, and it still is specific today, for people who've been affected by the fires. So it may not work for anybody in here, but if you know friends or family that were either in the Bear Fire or the Camp Fire, we have a registration voucher where we pay up to $250 for registrations for youth, adults, seniors, to participate in organized activities, horseback riding, basketball, swimming, whatever it might be. On the other side of that, we wrote a voucher for equipment. It's $150 for equipment. So we've been giving out bikes, baseball bats. Along with Fleet Feet here in Chico, furnished shoes for the Paradise Track team. We've gotten uniforms. Taylor, our intern, helped with that. Uniforms and shoes for Berry Creek and Concal. So we've been granted $150,000. We still have $50,000 left in our voucher program. So if you know of anybody, we have some flyers up there. Please spread the word, because the best thing that we can do is to get this money out to the community. It doesn't help us to hold on to it. The other thing I want to talk about is we're currently applying for another $100,000 grant. I'm pretty sure that we're going to get it. The good news is it's not going to be fire related. Okay, so it is going to support sports and recreation within Butte County, Tehama County, and Glenn County. It's not gonna be a typical grant like the registration or voucher though. It's gonna be a grant that we're gonna use to help organizations understand and become capable of self-sustaining. We want sustaining organizations, teaching them how to build boards, and please don't take this personal, but I was an Aquajet, I was the treasurer for 4 or 5 years. My son moved on, Brad made me stay on for a while, but eventually I moved on as well. So we're gonna teach organizations how to build organizations without all parents on a board, bring in community members so it's sustaining going forward. So the Sports Commission, if you're part of the Sports Commission, you'll be some of the first people to hear about that grant. Again, I think it's gonna be $100,000. Hopefully we'll have that in the next month or two, but we're trying to do good things in the community along with purchasing this land and building the facilities as we go forward. So if you have questions on that, let me know. I'll be in the back of the room.
Thank you, Catherine. So you can't have increased facilities without supporting improvements in programming, right? So the grant programs that Kathy's talking about are to facilitate increased participation, right? So that we're able to fund programs in the facility that lives over here. If you haven't had facility development in your community since 1958, then you suddenly want an aquatics complex. There's going to be a gap in programming and business capacity to populate something like that, right? So the grant programs that Kathy's talking about, by the time Kathy spends working hand in hand with North Valley Community Foundation and others to get money into the hands of people that need it in the community. And so it's a really big deal. What she breezed through in about 180 seconds represents a tremendous commitment on her part to help support programming. But the big deal is that EBHB is just as focused on supporting programming as they are facilities, because we know without the programming, the facilities isn't going to work, right? So the next piece is going to be probably one of the more interesting pieces for you to hear about is acquisition of property at Nance Canyon. And Bill Broward is going to come up, and I think Jim Parrott is going to come up as well to talk about Nance. And is Matt Galloway's not here? So these two, I think, are going to talk about Nance Canyon real quickly. And I'll put the graphic up behind you. How's that?
Thank you, Brad. Okay. So, value of recreation and sports in our community and to your families, and also the need for facilities. What I want to share with you tonight is what that vision could be, based on, again, almost or over a decade of work, and also a path on how to get there. Things that we and you can do immediately that can help move us in that direction in a very decisive way. So my business, I've been in Chico 43 years. My business is commercial real estate, land use planning, and entitlement work. I got involved when I heard a card presentation about a possible aquatic facility or aquatic study about 7 years ago. So I reached out to Brad, I think, and said, look, I'm planning a large area in southeast Chico called Valley's Edge, and I think this would be a good fit. So we came to my office, we looked at some maps, and at the end of the meeting I said, okay, I love this idea, but I think we've got to step back and look at where in Chico a facility like this could be located. So I wasn't driving it towards a particular area. So we did kind of a survey, ended up with 6 or 7 areas in and around Chico. And if you're familiar with the land patterns, we've got a green line on the west, and we've got a gold line on the east. And north and south are both constrained by lack of infrastructure and the ability of anybody to ever develop in those areas. So we ended up with a fairly small sample size, and I was familiar with Nance Canyon. It's 5,400 acres. It's all the land from Skyway south to Neal Road, from Highway 99 up to Paradise. 5,400 acres. So we did a matrix of what kind of infrastructure would be required, potential pricing, the kinds of environmental studies you'd have to do, and all of those different variations. And we ended up shifting our thinking from an aquatic center to a more of a generational push and vision. And one of the reasons we did that is just land cost. Land cost in the Chico urban area is going to be about $14 to $15 a square foot. You're not gonna develop a lot of aquatic facilities or any other recreational facilities when land costs $700,000 an acre. So we thought we could position this land at about 1/100th of that cost. And what that does is allow us to think not just one facility, but the ability of providing multiple different facilities focused on health, wellness, recreation, and education. Now think about those as institutions. They're gonna be around as long as a community is around. And often, the absence or presence of those three institutions determines the quality of a community. If you think right now what kids are doing, I've got an 11-year-old boy and a 13-year-old boy, and it's a struggle. The schools don't provide the kind of recreation, sports organized that they used to, and oftentimes as even with single parents or some underprivileged, the ability of getting their kids into sports is too much. And that's even if we had facilities. We don't have the facilities. So we're underserving our population. I think we're underserving current generation. Our thought was, look, for decades and decades, this community's been building malls and houses and offices and little retail shops. We haven't done anything as a community from a generational standpoint to make a significant commitment to achieve something that is really legacy for future generations. So our thinking as a group went from one facility that might be located in the corner of a residential area with nothing around it that could help it survive or reduce its cost of development, to a campus approach where we could align multiple recreational interests. And that does a couple things. It reduces your development costs because you can share things like parking lots and restrooms and infrastructure. And it also reduces your operating cost because you can mix programming. You've got a synergy. So I'm going to bring my son down to the my 13-year-old down to the aquatic center, and my 11-year-old's going to play softball. If you think about that, that's the current model. It used to be somebody's going to raise enough money to build a facility on the other side of town. Somebody else is going to build a basketball facility on the north part of town. That model doesn't work anymore. Land's gotten too expensive in Chico, and the construction costs are too expensive. And there's no synergy between those. And parents are stretched too thin to run around that much. So the idea of a regional sports park has another element that's really significant, which is the economic development component. Attracting dollars from other communities and spent instead of exporting our dollars to those communities. I mean, you guys are a perfect subset here. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's a vision, it's legacy. It's a 264-acre site that has, if you're on its way into Chico, you'll see the Welcome to Chico sign sits someplace around here. As you're driving north, you'll see a rise in the topography, and that's this southern boundary line. So visually, from 99, there's kind of a filtered view through all of these oak trees as you hit New Creek. And that becomes part of an ecological preserve. And then we've sketched out recreational concepts for scale, so you understand about what a ball field complex would be, about what a recreation center complex would be. There's enough land for a convention center. So we've scaled those types of uses onto this plan. Who knows what our kids are going to be. What's totally unique here, out to a profit component out of the land, that I think it has. County governments, when you think of land development and facilities, county governments do two things. They provide infrastructure and they provide zoning. So the ask here is that Butte County does just that. They're involved right now in what's called an update to their land use element of the general plan. Identifies where housing should go, where industrial parks should go, where conservation areas should go. And right now this is zoned Ag 40, and the only people on it are cows. So I'd rather move the cows out and bring the kids in. And we can do that if we get enough support to convince the supervisors and county staff. It is, but I can't emphasize how important that step is. It's become so difficult in California to pay for that. But that's what counties do, is they zone things, and then they ultimately can provide infrastructure. One of the important infrastructure components here is the realignment of, so that is really will be the main entry to this sports and recreation park. That's a project that's been in the works for over a dozen years. The city is doing the environmental review on it right now. It's a really important arterial roadway modification that'll help pull traffic off of 20th Street and provide a more direct evac route from Paradise. And that directly affects and benefits this property. So the process is, the county's going through this analysis. Ultimately, it's a political decision. We've got 5 supervisors. If we can convince the supervisors to support this through letters of support from you folks and others, and we can keep up the public dialogue. Instead of me explaining this to a group, maybe some of you are hearing this the first time, this needs to be part of a community dialogue. It's a big one-shot effort to get this done this year. And that is signing those letters of support. If you know a supervisor, you call them. There'll be more of a public relations media campaign coming out through EBHB. So get on Facebook, get on Twitter, or whatever that stuff is. I'm not one of those people, but that's very important. My wife is. So any questions? Happy to address any questions you've got. Okay, none? Pass it over to my esteemed colleague.
Bill covered everything that we needed to talk about. I just want to say we have been lobbying the Board of Supervisors for the last, 6 months? We've met with each of them. So the meetings sounds great, like the idea, don't have a problem with it. And then they're on to the next thing. Okay, so the challenge is to just keep in their ear until November. Is that when that process goes? Okay, so, and there's a lot of stuff going on. There's some contested seats, so there's election going on. So we've already done, a big batch of letters. We've had meetings. We're going to do tours of the property. But you guys all know people that you can recruit into this process, and we just need to keep in their ear so that they will see that there's more than just us begging for this, that the community supports it, and that there'll be something at the end of that process. Again, it's just a vision, but if we can pull it off, that's the most critical step at this point. So, thanks.
I'm going to reiterate 3 big ideas from what Bill said, if that's okay. The first thing is that we're looking at partnerships between health, recreation, and education. This is an important part of the business plan to make programming go out at the property. The second thing is a nonprofit entity has control of property and can drive revenue back into the community, right? That's pretty important. That's a pretty important concept to get, right? Because it's not a for-profit entity that's taking profit and taking it elsewhere. We're taking revenue and driving it back into the community. The third thing is the process that they both described, talking about the general plan work that's happening at the county is a huge deal, because if we get your support through letters, we're able to take advantage of that process to effectively rezone that property through the county plan redesign. I'm looking at Bill to make sure that I'm not totally stepping. Redesign. I'm looking at Bill to make sure that I'm not totally stepping. A ton of money, a ton of time, energy. We've been working on this for quite a while. You may not have heard about it because we've been through different phases of land acquisition, right? Processes. Jerry, you have a question in the back?
Yeah, what is the best counter argument in your plan? In other words, there's going to be a group of people that decide the land should be used for another purpose. What is their best case that they would make to use?
I'm stepping into Bill's territory, and I hesitate to do that because he knows way more than everything that he said during his presentation is way above my pay grade. But they would say to keep it as grazing land.
Being what? So, in other words, this could be a tremendous idea.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was so tremendous, everybody, all 5 supervisors would say, giddy up, let's do it. But I suspect that might not fit.
I've heard a couple of lines of opposition. Obviously, when you meet with a group, you meet with people, something wonderful in a community, that will trigger more people moving to the community. So there's a growth argument here, right? If you do something wonderful and make Chico even better, well, and literally, that's what I said earlier. I mean, it's so easy to kill wonderful ideas in today's environment. It's either political or it's legal. You can put up a challenge on any project subject to the California Environmental Quality Act, and you can hang it up for years. And there's a whole industry set up to do just that makes money off of that stalling. So it's become so easy to stop wonderful things from happening. That's my criticism, is we haven't tried hard enough. So all we've done is build malls and houses and offices. We haven't done anything to enrich the lives of the citizens of our community, other than just follow whatever government wants us to do. And government's not the solution here, unless we can get them to rezone this property. So, that was a great question.
So the last thing that I'm going to mention is that EBHB is involved in facilities development discussions all over town. We're not just concerned solely with Nance Canyon. So now we don't have to worry about the aquatics facility over here. Now we will avoid duplication and we'll dedicate the property out at Nance Canyon to some other use or whatever, right? So we're involved in a lot of different discussions. We're supporting facilities development all through town. We've been talking to other folks about donations of property and other things that go into the mix too. So don't think that we're just out advocating for facilities development at Nance Canyon. We're saying that's what we have to contribute to the conversation. And then however facilities development takes place, we're doing it in partnership with a wide array of stakeholder groups. Okay, so I want to make it clear that we're not just promoting development out at Nance Canyon, we're promoting it across our community. Okay, so first thing is we have grants and we have financial resources to help us increase programming and participation. The second thing is that we have property acquisition that allows us to use that as a carrot for facilities development. The last piece that I want to talk about real quickly is formation of a sports commission. We're in the process of working with about 12 to 15 core community groups like the 4 area rec departments, Boys and Girls Club, those kind of organizations to form a sports commission or a collaborative entity that's going to promote the increase in programming and facilities for our community. So a physical organization that's going to serve our community. Why is that important to you? Because aquatics doesn't live within a vacuum, right? Aquatics, you have to be out communicating and collaborating with other like-minded organizations and saying, how are we going to come to this collective, bigger, better vision for our community commission? I'm going to give you some slides and you can read through it and I won't bore you with the bullet points. But the sports commission is the collaborative, it's going to be baseball, it's going to be lots of different organizations are going to be involved in that commission. Why is that so important? Because if we want to apply for state or federal grants, an individual's access to funds, access to resources on a level which is not possible right now in our community, right? So the Sports Commission would end up being its own 501c3 entity that would support development of these programs in collaboration. Okay, you want me to drop a little truth bomb on you? The swim organizations right now pay X for facilities fees per month. If we suddenly got an aquatics facility that we want for our community, how much more expensive do you think the facilities fees would be for any organization in our community?
That depends.
It'd be a lot, but it'd be a lot, right? 6 times, 5 times? So when I attended a Build a Pool conference given by USA Swimming, and at the time we were paying $30,000 a year for facilities fees, and we're at the time. So how do you cover that increase in costs? How do you collaborate together to increase programming in a way that's comfortable for all the different entities, like if we want to offer water polo and other to our business plan? The Sports Commission is able to collaborate with groups like the Tourism Bureau that exists within our community and takes beds and heads tax. Organizations bridge the gap, right? And provide them with a lot of services to make that happen. So the Sports Commission idea is a big one. We currently have a coordinating council that is formed through a number of key organizations. Usually they have to have a physical state. About 150 organizations in our community that deal as a resource. We have a sports commission that we're forming to increase collaboration and put guiding organizations at the core. For instance, the coordinating council at the core are the 4 area rec departments, right? So how do we make sure that we're tied in and we're collaborating effectively as a community? So the sports commission thing is a really big deal. That's going to provide kind of the collaborative structure for everyone to get together and really create the business plans, help create the business plans that are going to make this kind of thing go. So, making it happen. Okay, you ready for me to, I'm going to get real for a minute. Are you ready for me to get real? Out of everything that could go into a sports complex, what's the most expensive thing that can go into a sports complex? Pools. Pools are a 24/7 drain on money and resources, and they only produce revenue a certain amount of time during the day, right? They're the most expensive thing. When we got together and we did feasibility studies, CARD did a feasibility study, we did an $85,000 feasibility study on facilities needs in our community. The most expensive, most difficult part is an aquatics facility. They push it out to phase 4, and it's lucky if it happens. So we emailed over 2,100 people to come to this meeting tonight, and you are who showed up. So the aquatics community has got to get together and begin to advocate for themselves and organize themselves to make something bigger and better happen. EBHB is doing community-wide work. You can see what we're doing and what we're about. We are not going to spearhead individually development of an aquatics facility. What we're going to do is we're going to go out and we're going to give this presentation in front of different groups. Luis Moreno, where are you? Luis and I are going to talk about doing this for soccer. We're going to get this together and go out and give this presentation to the soccer community. What do you want? What do you need? How do we help you accomplish your objectives and your outcomes? EBHB is focused on that global, community-wide look at how we do this work. The aquatics community has got to organize around making this work happen. So it's difficult because the aquatics facility is the most difficult nut to crack out of all of them. Soccer field's easy. An Olympic-size aquatics complex, do you know what USA Swimming says we should have for our community in terms of pools? It's crazy. For our population, we should have a complex with a 50-meter, 25-yard pool, 2 25-yard, 25-meter pools, and a learn-to-swim pool, physical therapy rehab pool, plus community pools that are interspersed throughout the community, usually run by rec departments, right, and things like that. That's what our population says we should have, but what we currently have, and currently have the capacity for, is very different, right? So, out of all this stuff that could possibly happen, the aquatics group needs to be more organized, more articulate, better able to communicate the message than any other group out there, because it's going to be the hardest nut to crack out of everything potentially that this community needs. If you want to look at the feasibility study, we need it all. We need basketball courts. We need turf fields. We need all these different things, right? Aquatics is just one of them. We can have this group with soccer, this meeting with soccer, and they're all going to feel the same sense of urgency. And in the end, it's like the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? So how well are we organized? We do have, I realize that that's kind of small print, you can't see it all, but we do have a lot of the information collected that needs to be put together in a prospectus about developing an aquatics complex in our community. It's needs assessment work and all kinds of different stuff, leadership structure. One of the things that we've talked about for quite a while is getting an aquatic specific advocacy group formed of folks that are not, and this is not fundraising, this is not knocking on doors or selling a brick. This is a group of individuals who are preparing themselves by organizing this information so that when someone says, where's the aquatics complex work? Everyone's been talking about where are we at on that project, that this group steps forward and says, here it is. This is where we're at. Because if someone comes forward and asks about that, a potential partner comes forward, and we say, well, we got to form that group or whatever, like that ship sails. I can tell you that that's how it works, right? The squeaky wheel gets the oil, and the organizations or the communities that get organized most quickly are going to be the ones that get the oil in how facilities development and stuff like that take place within our community. So I hope I didn't get too spastic about that, but I drove kids. I just came off 20 years of taking kids to swim meets and seeing the potential that Aquatics has to make an impact on a community. It made an impact on my family. There's a number of people here in the audience who had a significant impact on my family through Aquatics. Personally, I have a personal issue with that. I want to see everyone in our community have a positive experience with Aquatics, but I want them to have a positive experience with soccer too. I want to have them a positive experience with all those different things. So the things that you can do to support this work are, number one, support the redesignation of land by signing a letter of support. And there is Linda right over there is holding up a little piece of paper tonight. How do we get the aquatics community mobilized to advocate? Because everyone complains about facilities all the time. We communicated this meeting for 5 weeks. Taylor, who is a Chico State intern, has been on social media, on the phone. We had an email list that was 2,100 emails, about 500 of which got kicked back. That's still a lot of emails, right? This is who showed up. This is who showed up. How do we get the aquatics community organized around this and create a sense of urgency? Because like I said, out of all the things that facilities needs out there, the thing that's going to fall out the bottom is going to be pools, because they're the most expensive. They're the black hole of where money goes, right? So we have to be more organized, we have to be more articulate, we have to be more communicative relative to those different things. And the other thing too is we have to be really specific in the language that we use. Most of the conversations that I see on social media might be reasonable, they might be logical, but rarely are they factual. Rarely are they factual relative to what it takes to get something like this done. And I hope you heard from Bill, you know, this thing is happening. This thing is happening, right? And so you're the first meeting of many that we're going to be holding, community-based meetings where we're going to be meeting with different sports organizations and different groups. What I was hoping is we could start with the aquatics piece so that we could create a sense of urgency around that and really get people mobilized around those ideas to make something really good happen. But we're going to have to, that just us alone, it's not going to happen, right? Us in this room alone, it's not going to happen. So how do we participate and communicate? One of the things is creating an aquatic-specific advocacy organization, like a group of professionals, like 8 or 10 people, who can start working on something like creating prospectus around what it would take to develop an aquatics facility. We have all this stuff. We have all this information. We have architectural drawings of aquatics facilities. We have all that stuff. We have 2 feasibility studies. We have a sports commission that's waiting to collaborate. One of the rec departments, when we had the first sports commission meeting, they said, we're breaking down the meeting. They said, where are we at the regional aquatics facility? Are we going to have that conversation organized? Or if you're not organized, I'm a little bit busy with EBHB, but we really need to think about that aquatic specific advocacy organization and what that's going to look like to help support this work.
Hey Brad, is it possible to just make the ask that they circulate the letter, have them
Yeah.
send the letter and
Provide your contact information. We'll follow up and we'll give you the letter template so that you can get it signed. We need letters. Mike came up with 300 and something, stopping in soccer games and getting people to sign letters. It's an aquatics specific letter of support for development of facilities and the dedication of land in our community. It's aquatic specific. So you're not just asking for the redesignation of land, you're asking for the redesignation of land for the development of aquatics facilities in the letter. So if you update your contact information with Taylor, who, by the way, before I forget, thank you, Taylor, for all your hard work in putting this meeting together. You're awesome. Taylor's wonderful. So there's contact information. If you are interested in serving either on the Sports Commission or the Aquatics Committee, we're not quite at the place where we're engaging organizations outside of those who own facilities yet in the Sports Commission process, but we will get there. The Aquatics Committee, even if you just want to put your name down with the aquatics facility involved in this conversation and they're not here tonight. So I'd love to follow up with them and say, hey, we really need to have a conversation. Because I know a couple people there that really want to come tonight and they're not here, so. What's that? Oh, okay. I was thinking of, it's not your husband.
Well, he's out of town.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's out of town.
Sorry.
So I'm here.
Oh, great. Okay, good. So you get to sign for the Aquatics Committee.
I will do that.
So if you want to put your name down, be. I do. I have it as a SurveyMonkey link where you can just enter in information. It collects it electronically.
No, just send an email.
yeah.
What's that?
Just send an email.
Yeah, just send an email. So I'll give you, what I'll do is up the letter template electronically or otherwise. Yes.
Yeah, is there a deadline on getting the letters in? Is the period of time you want them in?
Bill said yesterday. So what's happening is the planning cycle or the planning resolutions are being dealt with between now and November. Earlier than that. And so the sooner the better. Because what we're doing is we're collecting those up and then we set up, Jim sets up meetings with the supervisors and they sit down and talk about the letters and why they're important and yada, yada, yada. Without the letters, we don't have a meeting, right?
You know, there's another element, as this gets closer to an election cycle, you know, the letter to the editor is a good tool. People use that on your own social media, like the Facebook page that EBHB has. If you do that and just pass it around, this has to be part of a community conversation. Brad's right, it's been pretty quiet, run all this stuff, and that's happening right now. So get involved, talk to friends, letters to the editor. If you know a supervisor, talk to them. When you get a letter template, add whatever your story is. Don't feel bound to follow the script. And just get people activated.
So we're going to be doing a community-wide PR push starting in late spring. Is that true? And so coinciding with redesignation of land, PR push, all that other stuff, we want to be positioning aquatics within that conversation, right? We don't want to wait for that to pass and then have everyone coming out of the woodwork potentially with interest or things like that. Yes?
Are there going to be directions in the email that you're going to send us? Let's just say I took that letter to my physical therapy office and tomorrow I had 50 of those signed. Where would they need to go?
To me?
Yeah, okay.
Oh my gosh. No, that was a question.
That was a question.
No,
Yeah.
I was looking at them saying, to me? No, they can come to me. I'll put instructions in the email about where they go.
And if you have 50 letters, we'll come by and pick them up.
Yeah, we'll come by and pick them up. Yes?
Will the land designation decision be made before the election of supervisors?
It's expected to be, but sometimes things get pushed off a little bit.
Can you hear?
Yes, beginning that. But I think it'll be an election issue. I think people will ask supervisors, do you support this sports complex or not? And one of my objectives is anybody that doesn't support this sports complex shouldn't be voted in office. Personal position, but, I think it's gonna be, so again, letters to the editor, if you feel strongly about this, stuff doesn't happen on its own.
Other questions? All right, so if you would like to talk to any other folks, you can connect with any of them there, and there are specific tables for you to visit.